My name is Alex Walker, and I've always been fascinated by the unknown. It's a trait that runs in the Walker family, or so I've been told. This is the story of how curiosity led me and my friends into the depths of horror we never imagined. My sister, Rachel Walker, is the rational one. She's always been the skeptic, the one to question everything. In her late 20s, like me, Rachel has a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue. Then there's my best friend, Daniel Lewis. Daniel has always been the adventurous type, eager to dive headfirst into anything remotely mysterious or supernatural. Finally, there's Samantha Sam Carter, the local historian and librarian. Sam is a wealth of knowledge about our town, Ravenswood, and its many dark secrets. It all began on a dreary autumn afternoon. The sky was overcast, casting an eerie gloom over Ravenswood. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping a cup of coffee, when the mail arrived. Among the usual bills and junk mail was a letter that caught my eye. It was an old, yellowed envelope, sealed with a wax stamp bearing a strange symbol, a raven in mid-flight. I tore it open, and inside was a handwritten note. Dear Alex Walker, you are cordially invited to the reading of the last will and testament of Eleanor Ravenswood, your distant relative. The event will take place at the Ravenswood Mansion on October 31st at 8 p.m. Your presence is required to unveil the legacy left behind for you. Sincerely, Edgar Thorne, Attorney at Law. The name Eleanor Ravenswood struck a chord. I remembered my grandmother mentioning a reclusive aunt who lived in a mansion at the edge of town. I had never met her, but the stories were enough to pique my interest. I decided to call Rachel. Hey, Rach, do you remember anything about Aunt Eleanor? I asked. Rachel's voice crackled over the phone.
Barely. Why?
I just got a strange invitation to her will reading. Thought you might want to come with me. Rachel laughed.
Sounds like a spooky adventure. Count me in.
Next, I called Daniel. Dude, we're going on a ghost hunt, I told him. Daniel's excitement was palpable.
I'm in. You know I love this stuff.
Lastly, I contacted Sam. If anyone knew about the Ravenswood family, it was her. That evening, we all met at my place. Rachel, with her skeptical nature, was already doubting the legitimacy of the letter. Daniel, on the other hand, was excited and ready with his ghost hunting gear. Sam brought along old maps and documents she had collected about the Ravenswood estate.
I found some interesting things,
Sam said, spreading out the papers on the table. The mansion was built in the late 1800s. Eleanor Ravenswood was known to be a recluse, but there are rumors about strange occurrences and disappearances in the area. Rachel rolled her eyes.
Sounds like every haunted house story ever.
Despite her skepticism, we decided to proceed. On the night of October 31st, we made our way to the mansion. The drive was long and winding, the road barely visible under the canopy of trees. As we approached, the mansion loomed before us, dark and imposing. The gates creaked open, and we parked the car. An uneasy feeling settled over me as we walked up the steps. The door opened before we could knock, revealing a tall, gaunt man, Edgar Thorne.
Welcome,
He said in a gravelly voice.
please come in.
We followed him into a grand, but dusty, foyer. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else I couldn't quite place. Edgar led us to a dimly lit room where a large portrait of Eleanor Ravenswood hung over a fireplace.
As her closest living relatives, you are all mentioned in her will, but first, there are some conditions.
He handed me a worn leather journal.
Eleanor left instructions for you to read this before anything else.
I opened the journal, the pages brittle and yellowed with age. The first entry was dated October 31st, 1899. It spoke of a curse, a family secret buried deep within the walls of the mansion. The further I read, the more my hands trembled. Eleanor's final words were a chilling warning. To inherit my fortune, you must survive one night in this house. Beware the darkness within. I looked up at my companions. Rachel's face had paled, Daniel's excitement had turned to concern, and Sam's eyes were wide with fascination. We have to stay the night, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. If we want to understand Eleanor's legacy, we have to face whatever is in this house. Rachel sighed.
Great, just great. A haunted house on Halloween night. What could possibly go wrong?
Daniel grinned, trying to lighten the mood.
Come on, it'll be like old times. Remember when we used to explore abandoned buildings?
Sam nodded, but her expression remained serious.
We need to be careful. If there's any truth to these stories, we could be in real danger.
Edgar Thorne handed us each a small, brass key.
These will unlock the rooms you'll be staying in. Good luck.
As we made our way through the dark, winding corridors, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The mansion seemed to breathe around us, its ancient walls whispering secrets of a bygone era. Little did we know, the night ahead would test our sanity and unravel truths we were not prepared to face.
As we saw in the last episode, Alex Walker received a mysterious invitation to the reading of his distant relative Eleanor Ravenswood's will at the Erie Ravenswood mansion. Intrigued by the letter, Alex convinces his skeptical sister Rachel, adventurous friend Daniel, and local historian Sam to join him. Upon their arrival on Halloween night, they are greeted by the ominous Edgar Thorne. They learn that to inherit Eleanor's fortune, they must survive one night in the mansion. As they explored the dark, winding corridors, they felt an unsettling presence and realized that the night ahead would test their sanity and uncover truths they were not prepared to face.
The mansion felt alive as we settled into our respective rooms, each of us with a sense of unease. The walls seemed to whisper, and shadows danced in the corners of my vision. The room I was given was grand but filled with dust and the scent of decay. An old four-poster bed stood against one wall, its canopy draped with cobwebs. I unpacked my things, placing a flashlight and my phone on the nightstand. Rachel's room was next to mine, and Daniel and Sam were across the hall. We agreed to meet in the grand foyer in an hour to explore the mansion together. As I waited, I flipped through Eleanor's journal again, hoping to find some clue about what we might face. The entries were filled with cryptic warnings and tales of strange occurrences. One passage caught my eye. October 15, 1899. The darkness grows stronger with each passing night. It whispers to me, beckoning me to the hidden rooms and secret passages. I fear what lies within these walls, but I must protect my legacy. The curse must not spread beyond these grounds. A chill ran down my spine as I read those words. What curse was Eleanor talking about, and what secrets did the mansion hold? The hour passed quickly, and I made my way to the grand foyer. Rachel, Daniel, and Sam were already there, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension.
Did you find anything interesting in that journal?
Rachel asked, her skepticism barely masking her concern. I nodded and handed her the journal. Eleanor mentioned a curse and hidden rooms. Whatever is in this house, it's tied to her family's dark past. Daniel's eyes lit up with excitement.
Hidden rooms. This just keeps getting better.
Sam, always the voice of reason, looked thoughtful.
We should stick together. If there are hidden rooms, there might be passages that could separate us.
We agreed and started our exploration on the ground floor. The mansion was a maze of rooms and hallways, each more foreboding than the last. We found old paintings, antique furniture, and dusty relics of a bygone era. But there was something else, a sense of being watched, as if the mansion itself was aware of our presence. In the library, Daniel discovered a hidden lever behind a bookshelf. With a creak, the shelf swung open to reveal a narrow staircase descending into darkness.
Looks like we found our first secret passage,
Daniel said, grinning. Rachel was less enthusiastic.
Are you sure we should go down there? It could be dangerous.
I took a deep breath. We need to know what's down there. It might be the key to understanding Eleanor's warnings. With flashlights in hand, we descended the staircase. The air grew colder and more oppressive with each step. At the bottom, we found ourselves in a dimly lit corridor lined with old stone walls. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of our footsteps. As we moved forward, we came across a series of rooms, each one more disturbing than the last. One was filled with old medical equipment, another with strange symbols etched into the walls. The final room held a large, ornate mirror, its surface covered in a thick layer of dust. Sam wiped away the dust, revealing an inscription around the mirror's frame. Beware the watcher in the mirror, for it sees beyond the veil of reality.
What do you think it means?
Rachel asked, her voice trembling. Before anyone could answer, the mirror's surface began to ripple, like water disturbed by a pebble. A shadowy figure appeared, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. We stepped back, fear gripping us. The figure spoke, its voice echoing through the room.
You have entered the domain of the Ravenswood curse. To break it, you must uncover the truth hidden within these walls. But beware, for the darkness will consume those who seek without caution.
The figure vanished, leaving us in stunned silence. We stood there, trying to process what had just happened. We need to keep moving, I said finally. There's more to this place than we realized. And we need to uncover the truth before it's too late. As we made our way back up the staircase, a sense of urgency took hold. The mansion's secrets were more dangerous than we had imagined, and the night was far from over. Little did we know, the real horror was just beginning.
As we saw in the last episode, Alex, Rachel, Daniel, and Sam began their exploration of the eerie Ravenswood mansion. They discovered a hidden lever in the library, revealing a secret passage that led them to a series of disturbing rooms in one room. They encountered a mirror with a cryptic inscription that suddenly revealed a shadowy figure warning them of the Ravenswood curse. Shaken, they realized the mansion held dark secrets that they needed to uncover to survive the night. Now we shall continue to Episode 3, Shadows of the Past.
As we emerged from the hidden passageway, the mansion seemed to have taken on a life of its own. The air was thicker, the shadows deeper, and an almost palpable sense of dread filled the halls. My mind was racing with the words of the shadowy figure in the mirror. The darkness will consume those who seek without caution. We regrouped in the grand foyer, the flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows on the walls. Rachel, ever the skeptic, was visibly shaken.
What was that thing in the mirror? Some kind of trick.
Sam, usually composed, looked unnerved.
I don't think that was a trick. There's something very real and very dangerous in this house.
Daniel, trying to keep the mood light, gave a half-hearted smile.
Well, we didn't come here for a relaxing evening, did we?
I glanced at the journal in my hand, flipping to a random entry. The words seemed to blur and shift before my eyes. October 25th, 1899. The shadows grow restless. I hear them whispering in the night, their voices echoing through the walls. They speak of betrayal, of secrets buried deep within this house. I must find the source before it is too late. Eleanor knew something was wrong, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We need to find out what happened here. We decided to split into pairs to cover more ground. Daniel and Rachel would search the upper floors, while Sam and I would explore the basement. As we descended the creaky stairs to the basement, the air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding settled over us. The basement was a labyrinth of stone walls and narrow corridors. Old crates and broken furniture littered the floor, and the smell of dampness and decay was overwhelming. We moved slowly, our flashlights barely piercing the darkness. As we turned a corner, we stumbled upon a small, hidden room. Inside, we found a collection of old journals and letters, their pages yellowed with age. Sam eagerly began to sift through them, her eyes widening with each new discovery.
Alex, look at this.
She said, handing me an old letter. My dearest Eleanor, the darkness you speak of is real. It has plagued our family for generations, and now it seeks to consume you as well. The key to defeating it lies in the truth of our past. You must uncover the secrets hidden within the mansion, for only then can the curse be broken. With all my love, Henry Ravenswood. Sam looked at me, her expression grave.
The Ravenswood family was cursed. Whatever is in this house has been here for a long time.
Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing our flashlights. The darkness was absolute, and a chilling whisper filled the air.
Leave this place, or suffer the same fate.
Panic set in as we fumbled to turn our flashlights back on. When the lights finally flickered to life, the room had changed. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and the air was thick with an oppressive energy. We need to get out of here, I said, my voice trembling. Now. We raced back up the stairs, the whispers growing louder with each step. When we reached the foyer, we found Daniel and Rachel waiting, their faces pale.
What happened to you guys?
Rachel asked, her voice shaking.
We found more about the curse,
Sam replied, still catching her breath.
and we were warned to leave by something.
Daniel nodded.
We had our own encounter. The rooms upstairs, they're not right. It's like the house is alive.
I looked around at my friends, seeing the fear in their eyes. The night was far from over, and the horrors of Ravenswood Mansion were just beginning to reveal themselves. We had to stay strong and uncover the truth, no matter what. Our lives depended on it.
As we saw in the last episode, Alex, Rachel, Daniel, and Sam continued their exploration of the Ravenswood Mansion. They split into pairs, with Daniel and Rachel searching the upper floors while Sam and Alex explored the basement. In the basement, Alex and Sam discovered old journals and letters revealing the Ravenswood family's curse. They were warned by a chilling whisper to leave or face dire consequences, reuniting in the foyer. They shared their harrowing experiences and realized that the mansion held even darker secrets than they had anticipated.
As we were grouped in the foyer, the mansion's oppressive atmosphere seemed to close in around us. Determined to uncover the truth, we decided to explore further, sticking together this time. We moved cautiously down a long, dimly lit corridor lined with old portraits. The eyes of the painted figures seemed to follow us, adding to the creeping unease. At the end of the hallway, we found a large wooden door, partially ajar. Beyond it lay a grand ballroom, its once elegant decor now shrouded in dust and decay.
Look at this place.
Daniel whispered, his voice echoing off the walls.
It must have been magnificent in its time.
We spread out, examining the room. Sam found a grand piano in the corner, its keys covered in a thick layer of dust. Rachel was drawn to a series of old photographs on the wall, each depicting lavish parties and gatherings from a bygone era.
Guys, take a look at this.
Rachel called, pointing to one of the photos. We gathered around her, peering at the faded image. It showed a group of elegantly dressed people, all smiling and enjoying the festivities. But in the background, partially obscured by shadows, was a figure that sent chills down my spine. It was the same shadowy figure we had seen in the mirror.
What is that?
Sam asked, her voice trembling. I don't know, I replied, but it's been here for a long time. Suddenly, the room grew colder, and a haunting melody began to play from the piano. We turned to see the keys moving on their own, striking a mournful tune. The sound was mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time.
We need to get out of here.
Rachel said, backing away. But as we turned to leave, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The room plunged into darkness, and a deep, guttural voice filled the air.
You cannot escape. The curse binds you to this place.
Panic set in as we fumbled for our flashlights. When the beams cut through the darkness, we found ourselves surrounded by ghostly apparitions. They were the guests from the photographs, their eyes hollow and filled with sorrow. One of the apparitions stepped forward, her translucent form shimmering in the light.
We are the lost souls of Ravenswood,
She said, her voice echoing with despair.
trapped here by the curse, doomed to relive our final moments. You must help us break free.
How? I asked, my heart pounding in my chest.
Find the source of the curse.
She replied.
It lies in the heart of the mansion. Only then can we be released.
The apparitions began to fade, their forms dissolving into the shadows. The room grew silent once more, and the oppressive weight lifted slightly. We have to find the heart of the mansion, I said, determination replacing my fear. Whatever is keeping these souls trapped, we need to put an end to it. Sam nodded, her face resolute.
There's probably a central location, maybe a hidden chamber or an old altar. We need to search every inch of this place.
With renewed purpose, we made our way out of the ballroom and back into the labyrinthine corridors of the mansion. The air was thick with tension, and every creak of the floorboards set our nerves on edge. As we turned a corner, we came across a large, ornate door covered in strange symbols. It seemed different from the other doors, almost as if it was pulsating with a dark energy.
This must be it.
Daniel said, reaching for the handle. Rachel grabbed his arm.
Wait, we need to be careful. Who knows what's behind that door?
Taking a deep breath, I nodded and pushed the door open. The room beyond was vast and circular, with a large, ancient altar at its center. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old books and artifacts, and the air was thick with the smell of burning incense. As we stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind us, sealing us in. The room seemed to come alive, the shadows shifting and swirling around us. "This is it," I said, my voice echoing in the chamber. "This is the heart of the mansion." The altar began to glow with an eerie light, and a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Eleanor Ravenswood, her eyes filled with sorrow and determination.
You have come far.
She said, her voice resonating with power, but the darkness is strong.
To break the curse, you must confront the evil that lies within this altar. Only then can you free the lost souls and yourselves.
As Eleanor's form began to fade, the shadows in the room coalesced into a monstrous shape, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. "Prepare yourselves," I said, gripping my flashlight tightly. "We're in for a fight." The final confrontation had begun, and the fate of Ravenswood Mansion and our lives hung in the balance.
As we saw in the last episode, Alex, Rachel, Daniel, and Sam continued their exploration of the Ravenswood Mansion. They were haunted by ghostly apparitions who revealed that the mansion was cursed and that the source of the curse lay in the heart of the mansion. Following the clues, they discovered a hidden chamber with an ancient altar. As they stepped inside, they were confronted by a monstrous shape formed from the shadows. To break the curse and free the trapped souls, they must now face this dark entity.
The monstrous shape that emerged from the shadows seemed to absorb all the light in the room. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent, otherworldly intensity. We stood frozen, our flashlights trembling in our hands. "Stay together," I whispered, trying to muster the courage to move forward. The entity loomed closer, its presence suffocating.
We have to destroy the altar.
Sam said, her voice shaking but determined.
It's the source of its power.
Daniel nodded, his face pale but resolute.
I'll distract it. You guys take care of the altar.
Before we could protest, Daniel lunged forward, shouting and waving his flashlight. The entity turned its glowing eyes toward him, momentarily distracted. Seizing the opportunity, the rest of us rushed to the altar. The altar was covered in ancient symbols, pulsating with a dark energy. Rachel frantically searched through the journal, looking for a way to break the curse.
"Here,"
she cried, pointing to a passage.
"we need to recite this incantation, and then destroy the altar."
As the entity roared in anger, we gathered around the altar, our voices joining together in a desperate chant. The words felt foreign on our tongues, heavy with ancient power. The entity lunged toward us, but Daniel bravely intercepted it, giving us precious moments to complete the incantation. The symbols on the altar began to glow brightly, the dark energy swirling and crackling around us. With a final, thunderous roar, the entity was drawn back toward the altar, its form dissipating into the shadows.
Now, destroy it.
Sam shouted. Grabbing a heavy candlestick, I swung it with all my might, shattering the altar into pieces. The dark energy erupted in a blinding flash, and then all was still. We stood in the now silent chamber, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. The oppressive weight that had filled the mansion lifted, replaced by a profound sense of peace. The ghosts of Ravenswood appeared once more, their forms now serene and grateful. "Thank you," Eleanor Ravenswood said, her voice filled with relief. "You have freed us all." With a final, grateful smile, the spirits faded away, leaving us alone in the chamber. We made our way back through the mansion, the once foreboding halls now feeling strangely empty without the dark presence that had haunted them. As we stepped outside, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. We had survived the night and broken the curse of Ravenswood Mansion. Exhausted but triumphant, we knew that this Halloween would be one we would never forget. And with that, we drove away from the mansion, leaving its dark history behind us.